Hey everybody, I'm Gio, and welcome to my channel. We have a special guest start this week. His name's Bentley. He's my new Yorkshire Terrier, and he weighs 5 pounds. He's 26 weeks old, and he is tiny. I got me a new dog, just in case you hadn't picked up on that. Anyway, I'll include a picture of Bentley towards the end of the video if you'd like to see what he looks like. Today's story is called The Ski Lodge Secret, Finding Love on an Icy Mountain. Let's begin. Chapter 1. I shielded my eyes from the snow glare, squinting to make out details. The brutal cold was refreshing after riding in my best friend's Honda for the last 2 hours. Lars Smith had packed everything we needed in racks on top of his muddy red car. Snowboards, snowshoes, skis, a couple of suitcases. Everything except snacks. Those we picked up in Pagosa Springs, 23 miles back, before the road twisted us into the San Juan Mountains. We just barely arrived at Wolf Creek ski area after our trip from Durango. Deep into the mountains, atop Highway 160, a road that made a pretzel look straight, the ski area sits on the east side of Wolf Creek Pass. It sat at over 10,000 feet, with 77 official runs, but if you counted the snowshoe and Nordic trails, the number climbed closer to 130. Up here, the clouds hung below the ridgelines and the world felt unreal, and a major winter storm was on the way. "Rowan!" Lars yelled, undoing one of the knots holding the gear on top of his car. "You brave enough to try Knife Ridge this time?" "The lifts don't go to it, so no," I yelled back. "I'm here for the hot tubs." "And hot guys?" Bo teased. Bo Perez had been our friend since college and was the third of our foursome. The fourth was Asher Cartwright. At 29, he was the youngest of us. We'd met at work. A gamer and computer geek like the rest of us. "At least you won't have competition," I yelled back. "I'm Rowan Henderson, the only gay guy among us. I work in insurance on my on time, and off time I play online games. And snowboard. The guys dragged me up here because my forever love decided forever was over. They want me to have a hot and memorable New Year's night, and drown my sorrows basking with another man, preferably the kind where abs are washboard and last names are optional. Honestly, I'm not sure what I want. Something quiet, something that doesn't require pretending I'm fine." Chapter 2. A gust of wind barreled across the parking lot, kicking up powder and rattling the racks on top of Lars' car. The sky had shifted to that pale, metallic gray that meant the storm wasn't just coming. It was already testing the mountain's defenses. We hurried inside, boots crunching on the packed snow. The moment the lodge door swung open, warmth wrapped around me like a blanket. The air smelled like pine from the giant Christmas tree, warm rum from the bar, and peppermint candy canes someone must have crushed into the holidays' drinks. A moose head loomed over the massive stone fireplace, flames crackling beneath it. Leather couches circled the hearth, worn and soft, the kind that swallowed you whole after a long day on the slopes. Faint but unmistakable, the sweet scent of sugar cookies, drifting from the trees' leftover cookie ornaments. Stars, bells, crooked little Christmas trees, imperfect and charming. For a moment, I just breathed it in. Then the lights flickered, just once, just enough to make the families in the lobby look up. A staff member hurried past us, radio crackling. "Generator's acting up again. Gavin's on it." Gavin. The name snagged on something inside me, though I didn't know why. "Who's Gavin?" Asher asked. "Seasonal tech," the staffer said without slowing. "If something breaks, he fixes it." I wasn't sure whether that applied to generators, ski lifts, or people. The lights flickered again, but I was about to find out. Chapter 3. The Wolf Creek Ski Area Lodge was a day lodge, meaning no overnight accommodations. Lars had gone online and booked us a weekend stay, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath Airbnb about 10 miles away. Most of our gear was already there. Only what we needed to shred the slopes came with us. Lars and Asher decided they wanted to warm up with an intermediate run, the Bonanza Bowl. They're better than me. Bo and I picked something easier, Easy Street. This close to New Year's, the slopes were packed, mostly teens and families taking advantage of winter vacation. Around 3:30, my legs ached, and I surrendered. My board went back in the car, and I went straight to the Pathfinder, Wolf Creek's one and only bar. I ordered a Fat Tire Amber Ale, because if Colorado does anything right, it's beer and mountains. Barely above freezing, the beer was exactly what I needed to relax. I leaned back in the booth and stared at the clouds out the window. "Nothing I can do," a gruff voice said across the room. He spoke into a cell phone. "The parts are shot. I've called my boss in Durango and he sent a guy to Denver. We should have them by tomorrow." I couldn't hear the reply. I glanced over. A workman, about my age, leaned on a stool, half-full mug in front of him. Dark sandy hair, lean build, a casual swank in the way he carried himself. He hadn't shaved for at least a week. The scruff, the same color as his hair. My breath caught. Steel gray eyes that darted at anything that moved. He must have sensed me looking, because he turned slightly, almost facing me. For an instant, his eyes met mine. I turned away, holding the cold beer with both hands. As he swiveled on the stool, he revealed 3 scars on his left cheek, like an animal had clawed him years ago. He wore a dark blue uniform, a heavy black coat with a furred hood, and thick gloves resting beside his beer. A full tool belt hung from his left hip. "Everything else is done," he said into the phone. A dangerous man. One you didn't cross. "Yeah, I heard. Storm's moving in. My friend's wife says it'll be a big one." I sipped my brew and turned away, suddenly afraid he might have noticed me staring. My chest chilled. Suddenly, I hoped he had noticed me staring. Goose pimples formed on my arms. "I'm clocking out," he said, "and going for a run." He gave a dark chuckle, like he was the only one who understood the joke. "So it gets down to 20 tonight. Cold don't bother me." Draining the dregs of his mug in one gulp, he straightened and pulled his gloves back on. Thick, black gloves. The light caught a plastic name tag on his left chest. Gavin. He walked past, his stride that of someone who'd done special forces or something close to it. I couldn't place his scent. Something earthy, grounded, like cedar and cold air. I took a chance and asked quickly, "So there's a good jogging trail around here?" His nearness terrified me, excited me, made my hands quiver, made my spine shake. He paused, looked at me, the steel in his eyes cold, hard, assessing, and said, "Stay away, kid. You don't want to get to know me." Chapter 4. I sipped a white wine and orange juice cocktail while lounging in the outdoor hot tub. A crescent moon peeped through the dark clouds. A light wind made the air feel colder than it should. My phone rested beside me. According to it, the temperature was 23 degrees. Lars was inside, watching episodes of Titans in our Airbnb. Bo and Asher had gone to Pagosa Springs to check out the nightlife. My comment? "What nightlife? You mean the bar where all the ranch hands drink? Sounds like my kind of place, not yours." They'd gone anyway. I thought about Gavin and what he'd said. I grabbed my phone and looked up Wolf Creek. Situated near Wolf Creek Pass, it averages 430 inches of snow a year, with the record year breaking over 800 inches. There's an ongoing legal battle to build a village connected to the ski resort. It's been shot down for decades. Once known for wolves, they haven't been sighted near the resort for 50 years. The skiers and lifts scare them away. Wolves have migrated north and west instead. Wolf Creek Pass is known to be a trucker's nightmare. The winding, steep roads are legendary for semi-truck accidents. There's even an area, the Overlook, that has its share of trucks that couldn't stop in time. Many are still at the bottom of the drop-off. I sipped the cocktail and closed my eyes. Gavin. When you think of ski resorts, you don't normally think of maintenance men. You think of sculpted bodies and hot tubs, not tool belts and thick winter coats. He had steel eyes, a strong jaw, 3 scars on his left cheek. The way he moved, not like an athlete, but a fighter, each step made with confidence, with a steadiness that wasn't grace, but precision. A lean man, a man who had seen combat. A wolf howled in the distance. Clouds swallowed the small moon, building for a storm. Faint light flickered inside the clouds, followed by whispered thunder. The wind picked up. I sank deeper into the heat of the hot tub, staring at the sky. A second flash, thunder, louder, closer. I wasn't alone. The back of my neck crawled, my chest tightened. Ignoring the cold, I stood up and looked around. Fast, unsure. No one was there, yet I knew someone was there. The water didn't feel warm and inviting anymore. The wind whipped up, shaking snow from the tops of the pines. What had Gavin said? Storm was coming. A bad one. With one gulp, I drained the last of the cocktail. I pulled myself out of the heat, wrapped my towel around my shoulders, grabbed my phone. I made it to the house before the snow began falling. Average snowfall in the area was 430 inches. I had a feeling this might be one of those record years. I opened the door, letting the heat spill out, and turned to look behind me. Just beyond the pine, the indoor light caught on something in the shadows. Eyes? A shiver ran through me. Giving in to the fear, I jumped inside and slammed the door, locking and bolting it before leaning hard against it. There might not be wolves up here, but there was something out there. Chapter 5. The snow last night hadn't been bad, only a few inches of fresh powder, but a lot of people were eager to be the first set of skis or boards to mark it up. My friends had all hiked up to Knife Ridge, a place I wouldn't go, because they wanted to experience the ultimate freedom. Me, a few runs closer to the lodge were fine. I'd seen Gavin once this morning, shoveling snow off the roof of the lodge as if it were the most normal thing in the world. I waved. He stood the shovel upright, glanced at me, then nodded. "I'll buy you a beer when you're done, same time as yesterday," I yelled. He yelled back, "Tequila." Then he spent a moment studying the clouds before resuming work. I was in Pathfinder staring at my phone when the news alert blasted over the television. A severe storm warning had been issued for the San Juan Mountains and was in effect until 6 tomorrow night. Colorado Highway Patrol announced a possible closure of Highway 160 and advised that chains were required on all commercial vehicles. My friend still hadn't returned. A knot formed in my stomach. I kept glancing at the door, not only for Gavin, but for them. Gavin entered, and we sat at the bar. I took the seat on his left, as if he wanted me to see the scars on his cheek. 3 long claw marks starting at his cheekbone and ending at his jaw. I attempted conversation. "Think we'll see a wolf up here? I mean, it's called Wolf Creek." Gavin didn't even look my way. "Nah, the ski lifts on the highway scared them off 50 years ago. They're north now, or west, deep woods. You might see a coyote. I'm Rowan. He finally turned, those steel gray eyes locking onto mine like he was memorizing my face for later. Gavin, he said. We both sipped tequila limes. There were a dozen of us around the bar. He told me about working here. I told him about my friends. The bartender wiped down a glass and nodded toward the windows, where the storm was starting to build. You know, he said, lowering his voice like he was about to tell a joke. The old Ute guides used to warn folks about this passing winter. Said the snow here remembers. Said when the wind howls like wolves, time to get inside. Storm will be a bad one. Someone down the bar snorted. Here we go. Ghost stories. But the bartender kept going. They said the mountains keep the spirits of anyone who dies up here. Avalanches, wrecks, storms, doesn't matter. If the mountain takes you, you stay. On nights like this, when the clouds flash and the wind howls, locals swear they've seen eyes on the ridgelines. Not wolves, not animals, just watching. He shrugged, like he didn't care whether anyone believed him. Anyway, folks say the Ute wouldn't cross Wolf Creek Pass in winter. Called it unlucky, cursed even. Me? I just say, respect the mountain. It's got a long memory. A couple of tourists laughed nervously. Someone ordered another beer. But the storm outside pressed harder against the windows. I've got a friend who was born in these mountains. She said it's going to be bad, Gavin said. He looked out the window at the dark clouds swirling overhead. You said your friends were at Knife Ridge? That's way up there, isn't it? Gavin nodded, pulling on his gloves. Bartender, don't let this man leave. Where are you going? I asked. Gavin gave me a dark smile. Hunting. I'm good at it. Chapter 6. The bartender brought me another tequila lime. If they're lost, Gavin can find them. He knows these hills like he was born here. Was he? I asked, making conversation. Don't know where he came from, but he picks up his mail in Pagosa Springs. Solitary fellow, hangs out with a bunch of rough backwoods types. Any family? If that's a subtle way of asking if he's married, no, he isn't. Wife died some years back. Don't know the details. Man won't talk about it. The door opened. A vibrant Arctic wind blew through the room. A group of tourists wandered in, snow dusting their shoulders. They've shut the lifts down, a woman said, stomping the snow off her boots. The wind howled. I remembered the bartender saying that when the wind howled like wolves, the storm would be a bad one. A red warning banner scrolled across the TV. State police have issued the following closures due to weather. Fourth down on the list was Highway 160, Wolf Creek Pass. I stepped to the window. The world had darkened. The clouds were the color of stale coffee, a dirty shade that didn't belong in the sky. The bar smelled of earthy tequila and bright citrusy lime. A thick rumble scrabbled through the heavens above. Thunder? I called over my shoulder to the bartender. It's snowing. The wolves are howling, the bartender said with a spooky wave. It's called thunder snow. Another rumble shook the bar. Snow dropped in thick flakes that swallowed the nearby lodge. Wind whipped through the flags and markers outside. Another 2 tourists flailed through the door. Roads closed, one of them yelled. A big rig jackknifed, blocking the highway in both directions. We're not going anywhere. Chapter 7. I lay down on a bench, staring at the rustic ceiling. The wind shrieked outside, a draft slipping in through the window frame. The furnace hadn't shut off for the last hour. A cluster of tourists gathered around the gas fireplace, drinking hot rum toddies and chatting about football scores. Friends played on the TV. My friends hadn't returned. The bartender fed people piles of nachos. The air smelled of grilled beef, and ice formed on the windows. We couldn't see outside anymore. Snow had caked the glass. Another 3 people fought through the wind and entered. I recognized the receptionist from the lodge and a couple of ski instructors. With them, maybe 30 people huddled in the bar. The bench, though padded in green, felt like a cold board. It never warmed up. My phone was down to 45%. It was 9, temperature 19 degrees. My friends hadn't returned, neither had Gavin. The TV shoveled to a second episode of Friends. Several people had found places to settle down and sleep. The bartender wiped the counter. He met my eyes and brought me a cup of coffee. Hot, bitter, I watched the door. A weather report. Advisory until tomorrow night. Snow totals would be amazing. A quick update. Emergency crews were having trouble reaching the jackknifed truck. Gavin hadn't returned. The hair on my arms rose. The feeling returned. Somebody watched me. Uncomfortable, I looked around. Nobody looked my way. I snuggled into the back of the booth, pressing into the wall where I could observe the entire room. Nobody looked this way. Still, something itched in the back of my mind. Voices sounded outside. Male. I closed my eyes to listen. The wind shrieked. The door flung open. 6 figures entered, covered in heavy snow. My 3 friends stomped the snow off, brushing the ice from their hats and faces, their skin pale. My stomach relaxed, the sensation forgotten as I breathed the stress out of my body. I ran over and hugged them, snow and all. Gavin followed, shaking the snow off, his skin healthy, nearly glowing. His steel eyes scanned the bar, finally resting on me. He said one word. Good. They brought more hot toddies for the newcomers. People made room by the fire. Lars, Bo, and Asher left their wet coats by the door and took seats. Gavin gulped his drink and frowned at the weather report. As he pulled his gloves back on, I walked over. You heading out again? In this weather? Gavin pulled on his heavy black hat. I need to make sure there's nobody else. We don't leave people behind. But, I began, you could die. Gavin chuckled, the scars etching 3 deep lines in his cheek. This little storm? It can't hurt me. Do you need some help? I asked. You're not dressed for it. With that, the man I knew very little about vanished into the worst storm I had ever seen. Chapter 8. Gavin wasn't my type. Gruff, unpolished, not your classic clubber with trendy designer clothes and the latest styled hair. He wasn't cute or handsome, even rude at times. When he moved, it was with the grace of a deer and the hidden fury of a mountain bear. He moved through the world on his own terms. I knew nothing about him. He didn't speak about his past or his friends, or even his dreams. Secretive and mysterious didn't describe him. Those words were romantic and poetic. Gavin was none of that. He was a sealed bank vault. Yet something about him was honest. It made no sense. I'd only barely met the man, but I trusted him. I grabbed my hat, coat, and gloves and followed Gavin into the cold. It bit deep, a slap across my exposed skin. A quick glance at my phone said it was 17 degrees, with a 10-mile-per-hour wind and gusts up to 40. All exterior lights were on, plus the floodlights. Though the sky was black, the metal halide lamps created a foggy daylight around the buildings, walkways, and parking lots. Similar lights crowned the lift towers, casting bright circular zones up the mountain slopes. The air smelled of diesel and wood smoke. I expected the quiet of snow, but the grumble of snowcats, portable generators, snowplows, and blowers turned the night into something like a racetrack. Voices shouted everywhere, coordinated worker ants clearing the hive. Snow should have buried the world. Instead, an army was digging it back out. People were on top of the lodge and the Pathfinder, shoveling snow off the roofs. Staff cleared the walkways and steps. 4 snowcats with front blades pushed the parking lot clean, careful of the cars. The cars? From my vantage, I found the lump I thought was Lars. It had only been snowing 6 hours, but the snow already reached the exterior mirrors. At least 3 feet covered every car. 5 bundled workers shoveled the edge of the lot. Gavin tossed me a set of snowshoes. You know how to use these? Used a set for camping last February. What's the plan? Quick check of the slopes for any latecomers? People buried in snow? How can you tell? He shrugged and slipped into his snowshoes. You're about to have the ultimate leg workout. He clomped around the lodge, me following a little slower. We climbed a short slope toward the lift loading area. 3 men were shoveling around the frozen lifts. Gavin spoke with one, who pointed toward the cars. Gavin approached, moving as if snowshoes were just an extension of his feet. You'll be sore tomorrow. Wants us to check the cars, make sure no one took refuge over there. What about up high? The Alberta chair? Camden's running through the area. Boy's got a good nose. If anyone's up there, he'll find them. Giant snowplows cleared the distant highway, reminding me of tag team wrestlers. By the time we reached the main parking lot, another 2 inches had fallen. The crews who'd cleared the walks earlier were already starting over. The snowcats and plows had piled the storm into massive drifts, rivaling the mountains in size. The ski area had been designed for excess snow. Spaces I'd barely noticed before were now overflow zones, and filling fast. Wolf Creek will be open tomorrow morning, Gavin said as we walked into the lumps that hid cars. Even if the highways are blocked? I asked. It's only blocked going to Pagosa Springs and Durango. The highway to South Fork and Creed is just fine, or will be once they get the snow cleared. Each lump looked the same to me. Sometimes a bit of paint peeked through, or a sliver of a window. Gavin knelt next to each car, wiped a little out a window, or sometimes did nothing before saying, "Car's clear." I wanted to ask how he could tell, but the cold already made my teeth chatter. Gavin stood and looked at me. "Give me your gloves." He pulled his off and traded me. His were thicker, smelled musky, like him. Friend of mine made them, rated to 50 below. What about you? I asked, adjusting the new gloves. Black leather, insulated. Gavin put mine on. Cold doesn't bother me. You hang on to them. That'll give me an excuse to look you up. I couldn't tell if he was being macho or truthful. I didn't get a chance to ask. He paused at a lump of snow identical to the others. Run back to the lodge. Tell them I'm bringing in someone. He took off a glove, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a set of brass knuckles. I stood, mesmerized. I'll call them. Gavin yelled a number. I dialed. For a moment, he closed his eyes and listened. He sniffed at the air, brow furrowing. Before I could speak, his steel eyes snapped open and his fist lashed out, brass knuckles glinting in the halide light. Was that a growl? Probably just an echo from the plows. Gavin punched through the snow on the driver's side window. One blow, fast, powerful. The bang was loud, the screech of shattering glass louder. He wiped away the snow, cutting his hand, blood smeared dark across the white. Gavin, you're hurt. He nodded toward the opening. Pull. I took one side, Gavin the other. We pulled at the glass, widening the gap. Somebody on my phone said, Hello? I'm with Gavin. We're in the parking lot. Someone's in a car. While I was talking, Gavin shrugged out of his coat, hat, and gloves. He reached into the car and gently pulled out an unconscious woman. Her perfume smelled of gardenias. Her lips were blue, her skin gray. A phone sat on the seat where it had fallen from her lap. I reached in and grabbed it. It didn't turn on. Gavin wrapped his coat around her and felt her forehead. She's cold, but her heart is still beating. With her in his arms, I led the way back. Do you think there could be anyone in the other cars? Wind and snow blowing through his sandy hair. Gavin said quickly, No. A trio of people rushed from the lodge carrying a stretcher and a medkit. They took the woman from Gavin, and we hurried into the warmth of the lodge. Once inside, I turned to him. Let me see your hand. Don't worry about it. I saw the blood. You could get an infection. Let me at least bandage it. You're sweet, but I'm tougher than I look, he said, taking off the glove and showing me his hand. No scratch, no cut, no blood, no injury. I stiffened, sensing, but not sensing. Goosebumps formed on my arms. I looked about. What is it? Gavin asked. You ever have that feeling someone's watching you? It's nothing, just nerves caused by the storm. What if I bought you a hot drink? With a wary glance behind me, Gavin casually smiled. Next time, go check on your friends and warm up. That night, as I was huddled on a bench trying to sleep, the wind blew about us, angry gods battling with snow and ice. A distant howling almost made me sit up. A wolf, then a second, and then a third. Their voices blended with the fury of the storm. I shivered. Chapter 9. The dawn light broke through the windows. I peeked out. Though still snowing, the resort was ready for business. Teams still cleared off the walkways and snowcats kept the parking lot cleared, but the lights were on in the lodge. We had survived. I spotted the black leather gloves lying next to my coat. Gavin's gloves. He had never returned last night. I picked them up. Polished black leather, a softer leather inside. Couldn't see the insulation, but whatever they used was incredible. The stitchwork was very fine, precise, delicate, black thread. The back had a simple design made with small black stones. A professional had crafted Gavin's gloves and turned them into a work of art. They smelled of earth, like he did. With the back of my sleeve, I polished the little stones. Lars walked over. What have you got? Gavin's gloves. Check out the back. Lars squinted. Look at the little gray flecks in the rocks. That's snowflake obsidian. Somebody likes you, Rowan. A dark-haired woman in a pink parka walked over from the clubhouse, bundled against the snow flurries. She entered the Pathfinder, gave a bright smile, and said, I hope everyone survived all right. For your information, Mother Nature blessed us with 47 inches of pure powder, and we expect 6 more inches throughout the day, though nothing as dramatic as last night. She sure threw a temper tantrum. The bartender yawned. The Wolf Creek ski area is sorry that you were trapped here the night, and to make up for it, we'd like to present you with complimentary day passes that can be used any time this season or the next. If you want to stay for breakfast this fine wintry morning, it's on us. Asher raised his hand. What about the roads? Again she smiled. Highway Patrol reports the roads are clear. Snow tires required, chains if you're driving a rig. Though the plows are active, roads are snow-packed and speeds are 30 miles per hour. Lars leaned over. Let's get back to the Airbnb. I need a shower. Bo stretched. And a real bed. I wouldn't mind the hot tub, I said, trying to crack my back. Before we left, I tried to give the gloves to the bartender. He gave me a tired stare as he wiped down the counter and said, You hang on to them. Gavin will find you. Chapter 10. We pulled up to the Airbnb to find somebody on our roof shoveling off nearly 4 feet of snow. Old guy, maybe early 60s, bundled up in a blue parka, heavy leather boots, and nylon insulated gloves. Lars stepped out of the car, eyes focusing on the snow-covered house. Lord almighty, I knew Wolf Creek got the most snow in Colorado, but this is insane. The owner should have put the front door on the 2nd floor. The snow had buried nearly half of the 1st floor, rising a third of the way up the windows. However, a deep canyon stretched from drive to house. It had been shoveled, as had the drive, and more snow was falling. Howdy, the man yelled down. Don't mind me, just trying to keep your roof from collapsing. Who are you? Bo yelled back. Friend of the owner. My wife is inside checking out the pipes and to make sure the vents aren't blocked. You went inside? Bo yelled. I didn't. Anna did. Storms like this can do nasty things to a house. Snow can collapse roofs, intense cold will freeze pipes, and if you don't get the vents cleared, gases can build up. My hands were warm inside the gloves. I don't know why I shouted back. Need a hand? He leaned on his shovel. It's pretty steep up here. I shrugged. Something about this man, maybe the steady, unblinking gaze of his dark eyes, or the icy smoothness of his tone, made goosebumps on the back of my arms. Easier to climb up in the back, he yelled. Wind made a huge mound. Extra shovels in the garage. Have fun, Asher said. I'm off to bed. I took a second look at the man. Blame it on the feeling in my gut. He was everything Gavin was not. Smooth, not scarred, tall and lean and handsome, but not built like a scrapper, not like Gavin. I'd guessed Gavin had been in the military based on the way he held himself. This man seemed too friendly, more like a used car salesman looking to make a sale. Gavin had been abrasive, but honest. This guy was a smooth talker. I retrieved the second shovel from the garage and climbed up to the roof. I'd keep an eye on him, but I'd keep my distance. I'm Salvador, he said. My wife is Anna. His smile a hint too smooth. Rowan, I replied. Though tired and my legs ached from the snowshoes, I fell into a steady rhythm. How do you have Gavin's gloves? He asked. He loaned them to me. I couldn't read the expression on Salvador's features. When I finally went inside, the aroma of crock-pot chili reminded me of home. Pipes are fine except for the back toilet, Anna said. She was slim, middle-aged with black hair streaked with gray, and wore a silver pentagram around her neck. I suspect a crack in the pipe. Don't flush it. I turned off the toilet valve so it shouldn't leak. In the meantime, you're down a bathroom. Make sure you leave the cabinet doors open so the heat circulates. She had made chili as a way to apologize for the intrusion. We'll be back tomorrow to check again, she said. As they were leaving, on a hunch I asked, Do you know Gavin? They say he knows the mountains better than anyone. 3 scars, bad attitude, tougher than rebar? Salvador asked, grinning. Anna smiled. Yep, we know him. Loyal until you give him a reason not to. Then, watch your back, Salvador replied. He wasn't born here. Served some time in the Marines, Anna said. 6 or 8 years, I think. 6 years. Expert marksman, Salvador said. Came here to rediscover himself after his wife died. How did she die? I asked. Anna glanced at Salvador. Animal attack back in North Carolina. Is that how he got those scars? I asked. They didn't answer. Instead, Salvador said, We need to get going. The storm is about to get worse. Weather report said we wouldn't have that much snow, Bo said. Anna fingered the pentagram about her neck. One of our friends said that the squirrels burrowed deeper and the cabbages have thicker leaves than normal. It will be bad. Chapter 12. I didn't know how my friends talked me into it. We took the Alberta lift to the top and hiked 15 minutes to the peak. We passed the timberline into barren snow and rock. I glanced down the slope. My stomach lurched. Breakfast threatened to come back up. God, people actually ski this? Smooth white powder stretched down in a slope that was suicidally steep. Without trees to break the wind, the cold knifed straight through exposed skin. Gavin's gloves were the only warm part of my body. A few long, snake-like trails carved down the hill. We weren't the first. I swallowed hard. Our hike ended at a cleared space where someone had shoveled out a platform, not to the ground, just to packed snow. The Alberta Peak Run is labeled Experienced Skiers Only. 1,500 feet above the lodge. The summer trail is 2.9 miles, but skiers cut straight down. 1.5 miles of direct fall line drop. Pure icy adrenaline. Only someone with a serious mental deficiency would attempt it. Hang 10 dudes, virgin powder, Asher yelled. This was a bad idea. I clicked onto my board anyway. Asher clicked into his board, shouted, I'm first, and launched himself. He whooped as he arced downward, snow spraying in a glittering fan. Bo went next, screaming, Cowabunga, whatever that meant. Lars strapped in and made a few adjustments. It's not as bad as it looks. Liar, I muttered through chattering teeth. That feeling hit me again. The prickling sense of being watched. I turned, scanning the ridge. A wolf stared back at me. Goose pimples formed on my arms. There aren't any wolves around here. Coyotes, maybe. Odd shadows, weird rocks, tricks of the light. Definitely. But not wolves. Chicken, Lars taunted, standing up, his boots adjusted. I'm not ready for this, I said. Seriously, you go. I'm heading back to the lift. I bent over to unclick my boots. You'll hate me in the morning. Lars pushed me. I started the run, slow, scared, my heart pounded. Oh my God, look how far! Lars passed me, his spray reaching a good 6 feet. I tried to stop, arms flaying. I can't do this, as my board swiveled out of my control, and I face-planted into the white powder. Cold, very cold, pristine cold. The wind bit. Somehow I got to my knees, sinking partway into the snow. Even through the coat, I was cold. Gavin's gloves were warm. I somehow got to a sitting position, board still attached to my boots. The view was amazing. The sky was a kaleidoscope of storm clouds, the lifts a collection of spider webs that radiated up the mountain, and the mountains, blissfully white under fresh powder. It smelled of pines, though they were hundreds of feet below, of ozone, of moisture. The cold chilled my nose hairs. The mask had slipped off in the fall. I found it caked with snow. I reached for the clasps about my boots. My left ankle twanged like a broken guitar string. It felt serious. Was it broken? Sprained? The clouds grew thick, heavy, the way they did in the old weather omens. Squirrels burrowed deeper, I remembered. Cabbage leaves thicker, I remembered. Storm flurries grew heavier. Snowflakes brooded around me, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. I levered myself up. The pain shot up my leg. I fell back down, breathing heavy, tears forming in my eyes. The clouds enveloped the mountain, a lover's caress with Arctic winds. Temperatures dropped. I shivered. My ankle turned into a frozen ache. I'd be buried in the snow and no one would find me. Until spring. That feeling returned. I wasn't alone. The hairs on my neck stood up. I glanced about, expecting nothing. Can't walk, can't ski. I checked my phone. No cell service. I laid back, careful of my ankle, and stared at the sky. Dark clouds. Snow falling like beads of white rice. The oddness returned. A whine from nearby. What I found tightened my throat. A wolf, dark gray, with a scarred cheek, and steel gray eyes padded over to me, walking atop the snow as if it were concrete. Wolves don't exist around these parts. I must be hallucinating. Chapter 13. The wolf with the steel gray eyes sniffed at my foot. His fur was wet and warm, and I hung on to him. My foot had gone numb. He was bigger than any wolf I'd ever seen in a zoo, maybe 36 inches at the shoulder. Lean, powerful. He stared into the clouds and lifted his head, howling, then howling again, a thin cry that tore into the sky, vibrant and as powerful as the storm itself. A second wolf trotted over. They were huge. Wolves only grow to 2 feet at the shoulder. At least that's what I'd always thought. These were much bigger. They bit my coat, careful not to bite me, and pulled me out of the snow. The smaller ones sniffed my ankle and whined. I dreamed Gavin was suddenly beside me, unfastening the boots from my snowboard. He had scars on his naked back. Then he was gone. I held the wolf with the scarred face, letting his warmth seep into my frozen body. A third wolf joined us, smaller than the other two, a pink collar around her neck. She sniffed my ankle. All 3 wolves howled. The storm descended. Something silver appeared, its fur radiating moonlight. It was at least double the size of the other wolves. I found myself atop it, holding tight to its fur as we galloped down the mountain, the other wolves racing beside me. A frantic slide down an impossible slope at impossible speeds, wolves howling and barking, winds whipping into a frenzy, snow blinding. The pace of the beast beneath me was steady and certain. Its eyes were silver. The wolf with the steel gray eyes and the scarred cheek never left our side. Chapter 14. I woke in the med center at the lodge, lying on a warm bed. A nurse had inserted an IV, and someone else was examining my ankle. "You'll need x-rays to be sure," an aide said, wrapping my left ankle. "But I don't think it's broken, just sprained." "How did I get here?" I asked, trying to sit up. My coat, hat, boots, and Gavin's glove rested on a chair nearby. The wall held a poster of common ski injuries. "Gavin carried you in," the aide said calmly. "Said he found you unconscious in the snow. Do you remember what happened?" "I was snowboarding and fell," I said, trying to piece together the dream. "I thought I saw wolves." The lady with the pink coat peeked in. With a giggle, she said, "You must have hit your head. There haven't been wolves in these parts for decades. You up for some visitors? Your friends are here." Asher, Bo, and Lars walked in, their faces pale. Asher spoke first. "Dude, how did you get down here before us?" Chapter 15. I hadn't seen Gavin since the accident. I never told anyone about the dream. Who would believe me? Wolves don't exist in Wolf Creek. Everybody knows it. Except me. A month after our ski trip, I was in the apartment I shared with Lars. I'd had to wear a boot to protect my ankle for a couple of weeks, but it healed just fine. Gavin's gloves sat on my desk, heavy, black, and smelling faintly of him, a reminder that the trip happened. They were extra special, because a tuft of wolf hair had gotten stuck on one of the obsidian stones. Not much, but enough to prove that my dream was real. The only problem? It wasn't wolf fur in the morning. It was sandy hair, the color of Gavin's. I figured I'd never see him again. I live in Durango, 83 miles from Wolf Creek. Somebody knocked on my door. "You expecting a delivery?" I yelled to Lars. "No." I laid my hand on the door handle and paused. Goose pimples rose along my arm. I opened the door. My heart quickened. Gavin stood there, 3 scars on his cheek, steel gray eyes, sandy hair. "I told you I'd come for my gloves." "How did you find me?" Gavin gave me a dark smirk and walked into the apartment. "Hunting. I'm good at it." Thank you, everybody, for joining me. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for visiting. I love you all. Peace, my friends.